After a bit of a Christmas holiday break and a final bank holiday on Tuesday for the Epiphany, we are back on site for 3 days of work, which is going to involve some tidying up, some reorganising and a little bit of a surprise, all alongside the work to transform the front and the side walls with new stone corners and finishes. After the Epiphany, or Three Kings bank holiday, the first day back was a Wednesday, and it was a seriously chilly morning when I arrived early to open up. And while I waited for the team to arrive, I started some prep work. First, trying to release from the ice some better stones we had put to one side. And then trying to check the water deposit by opening its frozen lid. Once the team were on site, they returned to where they had left off 2 weeks ago. Haggy working on the front wall, Photo mixing mortar, and Miguel working on the side wall corner. While I headed to a lower terrace for some tent repairs. That ended up taking me a lot longer than planned. Back up at the house, Enric was on site to check the restart of the work. And after the mid-morning break, the team returned to the walls, collecting or shaping stones for their 2 separate areas. I then moved on to my next checks and the footage from the cameras while we had been off-site. Which included a visitor I had just missed one day, and a different type of visitor at night. Although the sun was out and the day had warmed up, I was seriously glad to have some hot soup for a late lunch. And with the wall work progressing well, I moved on to one of the tidying up tasks on my to-do list. Followed by some more tidying up inside. And towards the end of the day, the team were also doing some tidying up. Miguel on our higher bit of the wall, and Haggy and Photo reorganizing the sand supplies for the mortar work. As I mentioned earlier, the reason for the shorter week was the bank holiday for the Epiphany and the celebration of the arrival of the Three Kings, which in Spain is marked by parades and processions. Like this one that Laura and I found ourselves next to on the Monday night, where a lot of sweets and candy were being given away, and which I quickly filmed on my phone because I thought it would be fun to share with you. Back on site, day 2 was another clear but slightly less chilly start. And as the team got set up, I returned to my water pump duties to refill the now defrosted water deposit. With Miguel finishing his work higher up the other wall, I warmed up with some rubble clearing around the base of the wall corner that he would be returning to shortly. And then I cleared up a different wall corner to uncover what repair work might be needed in the coming days. As preparation for some bigger changes next week, the team were now taking down the scaffolding from the sidewall, and that would also enable Miguel to work on the lower parts of the wall corner. Enric was back for his daily check-in just before the mid-morning break. And then the team were back on the walls with Miguel removing some of the remaining wall from the cube structure, giving us a first look at just how curved the lower part of the original walls had been. I then headed to the lower area of the front to help prepare for some work that I would like to start quite soon. With work on the front and side continuing well, I moved on to some checks for other upcoming work, this time on the next wall, removing old render to check the condition of the brick arch of an old opening. Which, after checking on the team's progress, I then looked at from the inside, first of all removing some old cork wall lining and tiles to check the condition of the wall below the old window, and then finding something much bigger and much more solid than I had been expecting, which I then tried to carefully clear around and investigate. Before the end of the day, I did some final prep work for the next morning to avoid too much fumbling in the dark the next day. And after admiring the team's work for the day, I then discussed with Hagi where on the wall he thought he would reach the next day.
Nunca se sabe la faena. Nunca se sabe. Mañana a lo mejor no vengo. Si no ven, ¿qué la hará mañana? Si no vengo.
Followed by some other banter before the team left for the day.
Ese verano, el miércoles pasado.
The last morning was an early start as I wanted to be on site while it was still quite dark. Which was all to confirm some target levels for work in front of the house. That is a bit lucky. and I had just about finished with the laser when the team arrived with a pink dawn to greet them. And while they got set up, I finished some clearer marks on the post. While it's nice to be able to follow the guys' progress from up here, that's not the reason I've come back upstairs. It's actually to do some more work on this big block that I discovered for the first time yesterday. Because all the windows in this corner are still blocked up, it is still very dark in this spot, and I appreciate very difficult to see much more of this. But it is so heavy that I can't really take it into a lighter space. So I am going to do some work on it here. And yesterday when I found it, I really didn't have any idea what it was. Thought it might just be an old lintel stone or just a heavy bit of concrete. But now I've got a slightly better idea, and hopefully, if I do a good job on it now, I'll be able to show it a little more clearly as to what I think it is. Before returning to the concrete block, I had to do some final checks on the planned wall measurements so that we could confirm the size and positions of more beams for work that we will probably get onto next week. And then I checked the details of an old brick arch on the outside of this wall. And after my normal work checks, I did then return to the concrete block, or concrete basin as it appears to be, to see whether I could move it and clean it up a bit better. With Miguel having finished work on the wall corner for now, he now got set up for work on the front wall and removing surface materials to enable stone adding repair work next week. I made some final markings that I had forgotten to do earlier. And then followed the team's final work for the week. With Haggy now setting up guiding posts for work on the upper opening. And that is the end of work for this first week of the year, during which the main focus has continued to be on the front and this side wall. And with the scaffolding now down, you can see much more clearly the work that Miguel has done on the corner of the wall, including the 2 sections at the lower part that he's finished off in the last couple of days. And next week, there will be an even bigger change to this whole area. While here on the front wall, Haggy has steadily been raising the stones all the way up the wall, up to the second opening. And hopefully next week, Haggy will finish the work on this side of the wall and we will have made good progress patching up the various sections of old and more modern brick on this side. So please do tune in next week to see how our wall transformations have got on.